All right, let's talk about menopause again. Before I lose the light, you can see the light, the shadow line behind me, and it's gonna sundown on me. And menopause doesn't have to be that, okay? So for me, definitely, I thought menopause is like when you're old, that like when you get like the wrinkles and you're gray and you're dried up and like everything's kind of over. So when I started experiencing symptoms in my 40s, that was the last thing on my mind. And what I'm realizing is how important it is for women to know that these things are coming, just so that I have this experience so many times of women coming to me and they're like I'm having anxiety and I never had anxiety before, and my eyes are really dry, and then I'm like can't sleep at night, and I'm really aggravated all of a sudden, but I don't know what's going on with me, and like maybe they've been to the doctor, and that's my experience. So I was 42 years old, and the first thing that happened was I lost my voice. I woke up one day and not like scratchy, had a cold and get kind of raspy, like no sound. And I hadn't had a cold, I hadn't been sick. It was summertime. And I was like, what the, and I was just like, I think early maybe in my yoga teacher career. So I was like, I remember is that I was like set up to teach this like whole weekend workshop where I was supposed to be talking all weekend. And there was nothing that was coming out. And then, so that happened, and that lasted about 10 days. And then I was suddenly heat intolerant. So like I said, it was the summertime, but I had just moved back from living in the Mid-South, where it was like right through the summertime, it was like regularly, 100 degrees, heat index over 100, and I loved it. So, but now, like all of a sudden, I couldn't stand. I would get so tired. I couldn't stand the heat. And then what prompted me to finally go to the doctor was I had so much pain in my body, and it was in my joints. It was so clear that it was in my joints, the pain. It was like every knuckle and all my wrists and my elbows. And so this was all happening together. No voice. All of a sudden, like it's summertime and I can't stand it. I can't do anything. We lived in a 3-story house, and I would try to go up to the 3rd floor where I had my yoga studio, and I couldn't. By the time I got up there, I was too tired. And then this pain came, and I felt like I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And I couldn't even hold my son's hand. And that's what, made me finally go to the doctor. My son was about 3 at the time. And I'll just never forget, all of us were went to the grocery store together. I couldn't carry the bags. I couldn't pick anything up off the shelves because my hands hurt so bad. And we were walking in the parking lot, and I went to grab his hand, and I had to let go because just that little bit of pressure of his little hand in my hand and like pulling on my wrist was so painful. And even now, it like sort of breaks my heart a little bit. It was like, that's when I was like, I have to go to the doctor. Like this is not right. And I went to the doctor and I talked to him about what was going on in my life, and he was a lovely young fellow, and he was like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, I could give you some steroids because that would probably help with whatever's going on. And he was surmising that I had maybe had some kind of like bacteria that was like embedded in my tissues and then got released, because during this time I was doing an advanced bodywork training where I was getting this deep tissue, very intense work like every couple of days, when really in like regular life, we would recommend you only get it every 4 weeks, and I was getting it like every 2 days. So, I was like, do you think it has something to do with that? And he was like, well, it could be this. So I didn't really want to take the steroids. So I was like, okay, I'll just see what happens. And I could feel that I had this idea that I was inflamed because I felt like sort of hot on the inside. And I'm not talking about a hot flash, which I have now. I have experience with that. It wasn't like that. It was just this feeling that I was like, that the inside of my body was like the wrong temperature. And that was why I couldn't tolerate the heat. And then I had an anxiety attack. And now, so I was 42 years old. When I went through puberty, I had anxiety, I had depression. My childhood was just like a shit show. And that's like a whole nother story. But anyway, I did have anxiety through my teenage years. So when that happened, I was like, something, then it was like another thing of like, what the heck is going on here? So I called the doctor again, and he was like, maybe we should have your thyroid tested. And I'm just like, man, what is going on with me, So, and I was, of course, telling everybody about it, all my friends, because I couldn't do anything, and people were saying, oh, you should get tested for Lyme disease. And then I'll tell you what, I had a friend she was 10 years older than me. She's 50. She was like a little over 50 maybe. And she was like, you could be starting menopause. And I was like, what? I'm only 42. Like, not even. I think I was like, it was the summer before I turned 42. So I'm 41. I was like, no. So I sort of dismissed her. And then through one coincidence and another, I ended up getting involved in essential oils, and I got really into this peppermint oil, which alleviated all of my symptoms. So I was like, okay, I just had this like some kind of massive inflammation thing. So it alleviated most of my physical symptoms. I still had this kind of gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. And I was married at the time, and I was like just getting like furious at my husband, and like recognize he wasn't doing anything. It was one of those where it was like he was not doing anything. He was just being who he is. And and as a matter of fact, I even called, I had a psychic that I would talk to once every month or so. And I like called her, and I'm like, am I psychic? I mean, I am, but like, what am I missing? What's going on with him? Why do I feel like this? And she was like, yeah, there's like nothing wrong with him. Like, it's you. And I was like, so with the peppermint oil, like all these other symptoms were alleviated, like my physical symptoms, and my voice came back, and the pain went away, and I was like my normal, like, heat loving self, and I, started my activities again, but I still had this other kind of thing going on. And so then, and I ignored my friend when she said it was peri-menopause, because I'm like, I'm too young, or she said menopause. And then I saw a nurse practitioner for my gynecological care. And I was like, listen, while I'm here, let me just tell you about this thing that happened. And this is what's going on with me. Like, what's up with that? And when she said it, and she explained it all to me about the estrogen and the progesterone, and how it like, it's this uneven, how you go through your life and you go through this like this even cycle, and then when you start going through perimenopause, it starts going unevenly, and that's can affect all kinds of things. Now, when she was saying it to me, I was like, because it was sort of like she was just like naming. She was like, oh yeah, and then it's like this, and then it's like that, and then and I was like, yeah, I think this is exactly what's happening with me. And that's why the the inflammation was like a result of the shift in the way that my body was digesting. So the other thing I did is I stopped eating nightshades. Even though I loved those foods, but it was like however, I mean, and I'm not a doctor, obviously, not like a hormone expert or anything like that, but there's something about how the levels of estrogen affect your digestion, and then that shifts over time. So that was like my first dip. And so I just had to be careful about eating nightshades. Things are different now. I mean, it's a lot of things in my life are different now, but this was how it was in the beginning. And at that time, she told me that it could last for up to 10 years. And I was like in denial about that, like I was like, what? But then she was like, but over 10 years, over the time that you're in perimenopause, around menopause, coming into menopause, that like she said you could have months and years where you experience no symptoms, and then you'll have these like patches of time. And that's how it's been for me over the last 8 years. So after that time, I got into like a good rhythm of the things that were working for me. And then over time, over the last 8 years, I've had periods like that where I would like there'd be could feel my digestion shifting, like I wasn't able to tolerate like certain kind of foods, or I would have shifts in energy. I haven't had any kind of pain like that come back. I have skipped 2 periods, and right now it's like my 3rd time of skipping a period in 8 years. The first time it happened, I was under a lot of stress. So it was like the first few years of perimenopause, and then I was getting divorced, selling a house, buying a house, and starting a business. So all those things were happening. Oh, and also there was like a lot of immediate family drama. So this talk is not to try to get into, oh, woe is me and perimenopause is horrible, but it's to talk about how these things go. And so I'm gonna say that if for whatever reason you're watching this video because something in there is about menopause, perimenopause, if you are in your 30s or 40s, and you have ovaries, you're gonna experience some kind of menopause. And for some people it's short and sweet. My friend just told me the other day that she had like a couple of months of like night sweats and like dryness, and then she stopped getting her period and it was fine. So where I am at right now is I am now experiencing like a little bit of sleep disturbance and getting a lot of hot flashes. And so far what I've learned in this perimenopause journey, I think I'll do a whole nother one about like the gifts of menopause, because there's a lot of gifts. But as the light starts to go down on me, I'll just say that I like knowing that that's what's happening has been so valuable to me, because like I said, when I have these shifts where like my hair changes and my skin changes, I get a rash, or like things that I could be like, what the heck? And I'm like, okay, this is my age, and and that this is the time of life that I'm in. So it's like the acceptance of that and the surrender and the really trying to embrace the value of aging and getting older. And that's so difficult in the world that we live in, right? Because there's so many things that we're marketed to about, trying to like ignore that we're aging, and that, trying to make us like buy things, so that we'll feel younger, or like look younger, and that somehow that's the only way that we can have value. So it's challenging to embrace aging and be focused on what the wisdom is in that and what the gifts are in that. So, and what I'm getting at is that that's been the best way for me to be able to handle the symptoms that are like really, really hard, that I just am accepting that, okay, this is the next phase, and like maybe I will talk to my doctor about hormone replacement therapy, or maybe there was something else I want to try first. But what I do know is that I don't have to be uncomfortable, like I don't have to like suffer through it, is what I'm trying to say. I don't have to suffer through menopause. I mean, like I said, it's been 8 years for me. It could be another 4, and I don't have to suffer if I don't want to. Like, my quality of life is important. So I utilize my resources, which are the resources as in like my doctor, my friends that have been through menopause, and, through my own practice of yoga that helps me to stay centered in my internal locus of control, and helps me stay centered in what I know is true and what I want for my life, and how I want to live the rest of my life. I get body work regularly because I need it and I believe in it. These are all the things that that help me honor my my right for a high quality of life. So I hope that this has somehow helped you to know that you are not alone going through perimenopause and menopause. And next time we'll do all the gifts of menopause. Gifts with a T, not the gifts, because that would be a very long video. And not the gifts for the party, that might be its own video. We'll do the spiritual gifts because that's what I know the most. That's what I know the best, is the spiritual gifts of life. So until next time, be well.